The world is full of creative people, and some of them release that creativity in the world of architecture. The result? Some pretty far out and impressive abodes for people who aren't afraid to stand out from the crowd. From a tall tower on a tiny lot to a gas station converted into a family home, here are 15 most incredible homes in the world. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos every day. That being said, let's begin. Number 15. Tubular Glass House. Most children will be familiar with the concept of a treehouse, if not by experience, then through the magic of storybooks. But what if the roles were reversed? As in, the tree was in the house, not the other way around. It might seem a little crazy, but that is exactly what Kazakh architect Aybek Almasov aimed to do with his concept of a tubular glass house. Instead of putting the house into the tree, Aybek wanted to incorporate a mature fir tree through the heart of the home. His idea was to offer an escape from city life while incorporating modern-day convenience and style. It would be entirely glazed with a cylindrical structure and would provide 360-degree views of a forest setting. 4 narrow ring-shaped doors would form the foundation of the glass house, along with a white spiral staircase that wrapped around the tree's trunk. The architect believed that each level would represent purification and spiritual enlightenment while harmonizing with the environment. There's a saying about those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, but we now believe that's because it would end up with an insurance claim. Number 14. Treehouse Master. Treehouses are for children. We play in them when we're young, and then one day we just never step foot in them again. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't we continue living that innocent childhood dream? Pete Nelson was determined to keep that nostalgia and whimsy alive and set about using his carpentry qualifications to do it. Tree houses for adults? Not a problem. But this time, there would be no girls allowed sign written in crayon on the door. Pete builds tree houses for adults across the United States and has produced over 11 seasons of his show on Animal Planet called Treehouse Masters. Now he creates over 20 tree houses a year. They feature all the basics of a tiny home, such as a living area and a bedroom, and they even come with kitchen facilities as well. These tree houses, as far as childhood tree houses go, are extravagant. Pete builds them for people who want to relive their youth, or even for people who wish to rent them out to travelers online. No two tree houses are the same, and adults can let their imaginations run wild. Number 13. The Costa Rica Treehouse. Many people are beginning to take a long, hard look at themselves when it comes to sustainable living, but some people take that to the next level by even building homes that epitomize the practice of minimizing their carbon footprint. The rest of us are only just starting to separate recyclables from waste, so way to show us up, guys. Olson Kundig architects from the United States were tasked with building a 3-story home in Costa Rica that was basically going to be a treehouse and playhouse for American surfers who were all about sustainable living. It was built in the jungle near Playa Hermosa Beach and consisted of local teak wood, columns and walls from tree trunks, and locally harvested Cenizaro wood. Wooden screens let in daylight and air during the day, while glass windows encompassed the second floor. The goal with the build was to not only make use of local materials, but allow the home to remain open and breathe in the semi-tropical environment. The resultant build was astounding. It had an open-plan kitchen and dining area, a bedroom, bathroom, and storage area, and a unique rainwater collection system and solar power. It doesn't get much more sustainable or incredible than that. Number 12. Cracked Open. A home that's light, bright, and spacious is something that many people want, but in most cases, if you want some light in your house, you better be prepared to install a dozen or so lamps. Most are not built with the indoor-outdoor flow in mind. A family in Amersham, England wanted a house that would rely on nature to provide lighting, and London architects Cullinan Studio delivered. Known as the push-pull house, it was split into sections in an intelligent way that still maintained its Art Deco styling. Glazed gaps promoted an open and bright interior, while the exterior of the home still looked like it was from the 1930s. That was so that it wouldn't stand out too much from the neighboring properties. The cross-laminated timber was split into 4 areas around the home's central space. It had rooms in each corner, bedrooms in each corner, and a ground level with a utility room and study. Stairs provide access to each level, and there was no need for artificial lighting during the day. Look out, world, the housing future looks bright. Literally. Number 11. Simple Tiny House. Many people that grow up with very little are determined to get a lot when they grow up, but for one Japanese man, it was quite the opposite. George Tsuyoyama, an architect, spent the early years of his life in a Japanese-American internment camp. As you can imagine, he lived with very little. Rather than dream about what he could have, he dreamed about the simplicity of housing and possessions. George and his family lived in a tar paper barracks in an Idaho camp called Minidoka. It consisted of long shed buildings with one window, a stove area, and a curtain between each family. Even after leaving the camp, he lived life similarly. George and his wife lived in a small fishing shack in Seattle before buying an adjacent narrow lot and going for that same simplistic approach. They built their home to be 18 feet wide and all of one color. It has a loft, stairs to a bedroom, and a simple kitchen, bathroom, and living area. From floor to ceiling, George's tiny home is a sleek and simplistic abode that draws on the positive points of living with less. Number 10. Stepping Stone House. The youth of today are often far overstimulated with video games, TV shows, and the general modern-day environment. While you could take away all those stimuli, you could also do what these parents have done and create a house of, well, Zen. UK architecture studio Hamish & Lyons constructed a beautiful stepping stone home for a family with 5 children in Berkshire, England. It would form an extension to a manor house, but in a far more unique style. The firm replaced the 3 flood-prone and underutilized outbuildings and created a natural, calming, and serene abode for a family that had 3 children with an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The house was built on stilts in a body of water with stepping stone access, and it was designed to maximize light, nature, and serenity. Every room in the house featured earthy tones, and it was split into 2 wings with a swimming area in between. The best part is, you never have to travel too far to go swimming. Put on your best pair of swimmers, step off your deck, and dive right in. Doesn't get much better than that. Number 9. Skinny Home. In the East End of Toronto is an absolutely incredible home, but possibly not for the reasons you think. One phrase to describe it would be, it stands out like a sore thumb. That might be why it sat on the market with a price tag of $3 million for over 100 days. A rare sight in a hot Canadian house market. So why is this house so incredible? Well, it's skinny. Like super skinny. Supermodel skinny, almost. If it were positioned on its own, it wouldn't look so out of place, but it's squeezed in between 2 regular-sized homes on Hamilton Street in Toronto. Noted as functionality minimalist with exclusive finishes, it certainly is minimalist. But if you choose to call this narrow home yours, be aware that the neighbors are, in a word, disgruntled. The 4-story home is placed far back from the street with a lack of street appeal and tends to impinge on the neighbor's privacy. Be prepared to feature on an episode of Neighbors at War once moving day arrives. Anyone who buys this home is immediately in their bad books. Number 8. Tiny Tower. It seems crazy for a housing crisis to exist when many plots around the country lie vacant without owners or abandoned. The problem is many of them are just too small for a regular home, which means no one seems to want them. Pennsylvania architecture studio ISSA has come up with a solution. The design studio has created what is being called the Tiny Tower. It's a 5-story house on a small plot that has a 1,250 square foot floor plan, but a footprint of just 29 by 12 feet. How on earth does that work? It's easy. The Tiny Tower has a wood and steel frame with painted metal and a level for each function. Stairs take the homeowner up to each floor, with every inch of space maximized for comfort and convenience. Windows also make up a significant portion of the front, but it's a little more private on the remaining sides. This tower in a developing Philadelphia neighborhood could be the key to solving a lack of housing and an oversupply of tiny, unwanted lots. Number 7. Cement Factory. Most people would see a rundown old cement factory and think, yuck, knock that down, what an eyesore. But Richard Vofil saw something different. He had been on vacation in Spain when he spotted the abandoned old factory. Instead of ruins, he saw an opportunity. It took him more than 4 decades, but he converted the factory into a one-of-a-kind home that looks more castle than factory. Once he had transformed the interior, which included a cathedral, archive room, a 4-floor studio for his architecture firm, a private residence, and a workshop, he then got to work on the outside. He created a natural oasis to offset his carbon footprint, with lush gardens, olive trees, palm trees, and eucalyptus trees. He then decided to share it with the world by opening up parts to the public. While some parts were closed off, such as the residential part, people could visit, take photos, and admire the architecture and years of planning to make it something magnificent. If he could create a paradise from a cement factory, imagine what he could do with a blank canvas. Number 6. Gas station. If you have a hard time trying to get the automotive enthusiast in your family to stop drooling over cars, then it's best he doesn't see this incredible home in New Orleans. Robert Guthrie decided it would be a great idea to turn an old, abandoned gas station into his home. The result? Absolutely amazing. It retains all the old-style automotive charm with exposed beams and rustic features, but carries on the car-mad theme in a contemporary way. Kitchen cabinetry has car badge handles, and the staircase to the bedroom is the original garage hydraulic lift, albeit a bit less oily and greasy. Everywhere you look, there's a piece of furniture, knick-knack, or home feature with cars on it, with the GO logo crafted into the floor-to-ceiling tiling and an oil can holder as the toilet paper roll holder. Completing the package is a rooftop deck for entertaining and relaxing, and a Spanish-style exterior that retains old garage signage just to confuse those driving through. Want to know what dreams are made of? An old gas station, that's what. Number 5. A warehouse ware home. If you're ready to jump onto the next step of the property ladder, you can build a home from scratch or buy a house that somebody has already built. Or you could do what Alan Branch did and buy an old 4,400 square foot warehouse and turn it into a ware home. It might seem nuts, and it was, but the results are astounding. The old warehouse now boasts many eye-catching features like rooftop solar panels, an outdoor entertainment area, 19-foot ceilings, and a second floor catwalk. The completely guttered warehouse also has touches of elegance like a 48 square foot granite countertop island, space-saving cabinetry and closets, and small appliances. It's hard to believe that a rundown 80-year-old auto store in downtown Panama City would become a functioning family home in as little as 14 months, but that was the reality, and according to Alan, it was well worth the stress. Alan says that not only has the move to Panama City enabled him to build his dream home, but to live a more community-oriented lifestyle. As they started renovations, more and more people would stop by and find out what the next stage would be. Those intrigued passers-by have now become lifelong friends. Number 4. The Hobbit House. Are you tired of the same old boring 4 walls in your home? Then it might be time to book a night or two in a Hobbit House in Lyons, Colorado. The Hobbit House is one of over 20 like it for overnight stays at the We Casa Tiny House Resort. It can become yours for between $149 and $299 per night. The tiny house, while not built for hobbits, can make you believe it was. It has a Hobbit-style door, climbing plants on the roof, shingled siding, and porthole windows. It's also deceptively spacious, spanning 170 feet with a queen bed, fold-out sofa, shared kitchen and living, and a bathroom with a sink, flush toilet, and shower. The entire interior of the Hobbit House is wood, which offers the real illusion of cabin in the woods. There's a set of stairs that lead up to the bedroom, a beautiful wood chandelier, but also modern amenities for comfort. The real deal clincher, an electric fire and air conditioning keep the elements at bay. As far as Hobbit housing goes, this one would have to be one of the more luxurious. Number 3. Container Home. With a passion for bioclimatic design and mobile homes, Nastasia Siprapoulou decided to think a little outside the box when it came time to design her dream home. In fact, she decided to think outside the container instead. After seeing the surplus of shipping containers at Athens Port Piraeus, Nastasia decided to turn one into her home. She chose a 40-foot container in good condition, added a living roof and solar power system, and set about making it a home. To retain the container feel, she left the end doors on but allowed them to be open to reveal a sliding glass door. She also cut a bathroom window for ventilation and added insulation for warmth. Nastasia was all about future-proofing too, for she added support beams to put on a second floor at a later date. However, given that it's still just a shipping container, if she ever wanted to move, she would merely need to hire a truck to move the container to another location before adding all the stories back together. Time will tell whether this container home becomes a container mansion. Number 2. Edgeland House. The name Edgeland House is very fitting for this incredible home because it definitely has a lot of edges and, well, it's pretty edgy. The architects of this abode were very clever with what they built and why. It sits on a rehabilitated brownfield site and is a modern take on a Native American pit house. Instead of relying solely on electric and gas heating like most modern homes, this one uses what nature has to offer: the dirt. The house is built 7 feet into the ground and has an insulative green roof. It stays cool in summer, warm in winter, and relies on a hydronic HVAC system partnered with the green roof for efficiency. You would never know you're not relying on conventional systems for heat and comfort. In architectural and aesthetic terms, this abode is astounding. It acts as an extension of the landscape and is broken up into a living and sleeping quarters. The ultimate goal of Edgeland House is to set new standards for sustainability. It's clear they've achieved that and much more. We're all here in 2020 and this guy's in 2120. Number 1. The Razor House. For a house to be one of the most incredible in the world, it doesn't have to be tiny, on wheels, or built out of recyclable materials. It can also just have that wow factor, and the Razor House does. The Razor House was designed and built by a top 100 designer named Wallace E. Cunningham. It sits on a cliff in La Jolla overlooking the ocean and was on the market for around a year for $30 million. Alicia Keys and her husband purchased it for $20.8 million, a bargain in the real estate world when you get ocean views. It has a sizable living room, 2 steam rooms, 4 bedrooms, a theater, and even a Ralph Lauren pool table. It also has more windows than walls, with much of the front glazed to maximize the views over the ocean. Can you imagine trying to clean those windows to get rid of sea spray? There's no denying it's one of the most incredible homes in the world. So much so that there's a rumor it inspired Tony Stark's home in Iron Man. Most house-proud people will think that their homes are the most incredible, but they've got nothing on these. Which one fascinated you the most? Have you seen any in person? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time!